Thanks for tuning in to Advanced TV Herstory, a podcast that studies, analyzes, and celebrates women in TV in all aspects of TV. Because it's all about numbers, fewer roles equate to fewer women in hit shows. Fewer women in the business justifies fewer women being hired to fill the positions. Where does a podcast about women in TV fit into this discussion? Advanced TV Herstory recounts the stories of the real labor, the real conflict, the real tenacity that has marked the evolution of women in TV, or the on-screen product that depicted the evolution of women in America. As a means of socialization, television forms the basis of our understanding of people. So within nearly every show about women or created by women, there is a strong theme of relationships and a story waiting to be told. Your feedback and ideas will help shape future installments of Advanced TV Herstory. So please, think about shows that have made a great impression on you or legends you believe need to be explored or shared or their stories told. Thanks for tuning in to Advanced TV Herstory. I'm your host, Cynthia Bemis Abrams. Go ahead, list memorable favorite shows in television, shows that feature women, and before long a trend emerges. That's the formula of 4 women as lead characters. While Advanced TV Herstory has found no exhaustive list of the forgotten or super short-lived series, there are at least a good dozen that succeeded with 4 lead women characters. Through different approaches to the lead characters, or indeed unpredictable scenarios that occur within every series tenure, no 2 episodes within those series are the same, or come anywhere close to being the same. But there is some DNA at work, and that's one of the themes that will emerge as we continue to explore the shows that feature 4 lead women characters. Today we'll revisit Winnetka, the suburban community where 4 sisters lived for 6 seasons on the show Sisters. It aired from 1991 to 1996, and like the show profiled in an earlier podcast, Desperate Housewives, used the stability of its suburban setting as a launching pad for over-the-top stories and twists. In this installment, you'll learn a bit about the characters and actresses who played them. Then we'll explore the over-the-top scenarios and stories to better understand how this show, clearly targeted at women, wove in headlines of the day. In other arcs, the writers dug deep into the family or female experience to offer up one of life's many challenges. They would then skillfully paint the role relationships play in managing through or resolving the situation. Sisters as a show from only 20 years ago has fallen into such obscurity. Only recently have seasons 1 and 2 been released on DVD, and you can find episodes on YouTube or maybe accidentally stored on a VHS in your basement. Mine have been there intentionally for 20 years. But at the time Sisters aired, it garnered the nominations at the Screen Actors Guild, Golden Globe Awards, and Emmy Awards for on-screen talent, that of Swoosie Kurtz and Sela Ward in their roles as Alex and Teddy. In 1993, behind the camera, Nancy Malone was nominated for an Emmy for Outstanding Individual Achievement for directing in a drama series, and Susan Stinson Malice was also nominated for an Emmy for Outstanding Individual Achievement in editing for a series, single camera production. And finally, for a show known for its fashion and hair, Rachel Stanley was nominated in 1996 for an Emmy for Outstanding Costume Design in a series. It's also important to note that not much has ever been written about this show. No interviews exist about the show with the actresses or with many of the people behind the scenes. Seasons 1 and 2 on DVD contains interviews about the show's creators, reminiscing about casting decisions and various challenges of the show. But having not viewed those interviews, this podcast is largely my original analysis. The story of the Reed sisters, Alex, Georgie, Frankie, and Teddy, capably holds down the fort of the 4 lead construction. Just like the Golden Girls in Sex and the City, you'll come to appreciate that Frankie is the smart one, a career gal. Alex leads a pampered life. Teddy is the creative one and tends to make impetuous decisions when it comes to all the men in her life. And Georgie is the stable one, the nexus of the foursome. As an hour-long show, it was a bit of a serial. Characters and plots fed into future episodes. It was an hour of suspended belief. These were real women who just happened to have outrageous things happen in their lives. And they managed to tend the distressed, resolve conflict, and celebrate accomplishments surrounded by hooded sweatshirts, mom jeans, fuzzy sweaters, suits with pretty terrific shoulder pads, and dinners with good to fine china. Improbable, if not impossible, yes. But they looked like real people, and by the end of the show, each had really great 90s hair. The show was created by men and mostly written by men. This is a rare 2004 Emmy TV Legends clip of Robert Butler, who was a veteran director by the time he worked on the show. It serves as a reminder that there was a mindset then that it was perfectly fine to think that men were the most capable ones to present a show about women, largely for women. How much has changed since 2004?
Correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
What was the idea behind that show, and what was that experience like?
The two guys who wrote the script are very good writers. Some of their writing gets a little fanciful, but most of their writing is really solid and very knowledgeable about those four women, those four sisters. It was good material. I liked it. It was soft material. It was above soap. It wasn't simply a soap opera. It was relationships of those four women who did those parts very, very nicely. And their mom, who was tough and good and appropriately so in my mind. It was written kind of tough, and I think I toughened her further. I liked devoting all the energies to character and story rather than action and suspense. It was a good change-up. Action and suspense is a different kind of concentration. It's very graphic. You're worrying about events and items on a step sheet and setups and graphics of the bare feet along the carpet in the dark and, that stuff. In this kind of a show, you're very preoccupied by those women and the individuality of each of the four, how they fit together and how they work together.
When I first viewed the interview, my chief thought was, if even one or two women had been a part of the show's conception and creation, would it have been cast differently, plotted differently, or become a more celebrated and remembered show than it is today? So let's look at what was produced and who were the sisters. Going not in alphabetical or age order, but rather by name ID and post-sisters career activity, we start with Teddy, played by Sela Ward. Sela Ward emerged from Sisters with the strongest career, for she had small roles in movies like The Day After Tomorrow and Dirty Dancing Havana Nights, and on TV she starred and earned an Emmy for Once and Again. She was also a late series addition to CSI New York. Sela Ward played Teddy, the creative, divorced sister, who we see return with her teenage daughter to Winnetka in the pilot episode. Swoosie Kurtz was Alex and is a veteran of the stage, TV, and the big screen. She currently plays Melissa McCarthy's mother on Mike and Molly. She had a recurring role in Pushing Daisies, ER, and Nurse Jackie. Her TV career and all sorts of award nominations go all the way back to the early 1980s. In Sisters' first season, viewers see Alex's pampered life as the wife of a plastic surgeon, but it begins to unravel. She can be judgmental and doesn't mince words. I suppose that might be considered an eldest daughter trait, but scandal forces her to accept a new economic reality throughout the series for her and her daughter, and this pilot scene establishes her relationship with her mother, who isn't doing well adjusting to all the changes that have come with being a widow.
Mother, they told me on the phone you had 0.15 alcohol content in your blood.
That's not very much, is it?
Not very much. It's twice what you're allowed by law. What were you doing out so late?
I had to pick up a few things at the all-night market.
The one with the liquor department that never closes?
Haven't I been interrogated enough for one night?
So long, B. Take care of yourself.
Oh, yeah. Thanks. All right, son.
You too, Marie. My cellmate. Nice girl. Polite.
Mom. God. You scared me to death. What if you'd hurt someone? What if you'd hurt yourself? That's all we need. Look, from now on, whatever the problem is, I want you to promise me you'll call me anytime, day or night, and I'll come right over, all right?
Get it.
What would Daddy think if he saw you here like this?
I knew I should have called Georgie. She'd understand.
Oh, well, go ahead then. Call Georgie, call Frankie, call Teddy. Because you know something? I don't understand.
You will. One day. Now, if you don't mind, I'd like to go home. That is while there's still a home to go to.
Georgie, who most would consider to be the show's focus sister, was played by Patricia Kalember, who continues to pop up all the time in shows that feature strong women. She was Judge Tatum in Law & Order SVU. She's a senator in Madam Secretary. She's Joyce in Olive Kitteridge. And Marka in Orange is the New Black. Kalember was Georgie, the second oldest sister, who was the most responsible and perceived as the most stable. The show begins with viewers learning she is the one with the most suburban middle-class life. She's got a house, a dog, 2 sons, and a husband. This clip from the pilot provides a glimpse of how Teddy and Georgie get along.
Then you decided to sing.
What about you?
Me?
You, Georgie, how are you doing? Or does anybody ever bother to ask?
I'm fine. Busy. Selling real estate full-time till John gets his act together.
Well, if there's anything I can do.
How about coming with me to Mom's?
I'd like to. But, I think I'm going to take Kat to see her dad.
You really think that's a good idea? I mean, it's a closed chapter from Teddy, the early years. Why reopen the book?
Well, it made pretty good bedside reading once, if I recall.
Lastly, sort of, there was Frankie, who was played by Julianne Phillips. Julianne Phillips is the actress who seemingly dropped out after the show ended, actually sort of before the show ended. Her career was busy during the show's run, doing made-for-TV movies that were dramas, not just fluffy rom-coms. By the 5th season, the character of Frankie, the smart one, had moved off to New York and Japan as an entrepreneur, and Frankie took her son, Thomas George, with her. Thomas George, of course, is the son of Teddy's first husband, Mitch, who Frankie had while she was married to Mitch, which would have been his second marriage. So in the 1st season, the courtship of Mitch and Frankie is the story that is aided by flashbacks, which is a recurring tool throughout the series, and it involves teenage actresses who depict the sisters' teen years. So Frankie leaves Winnetka in season 5, is pretty much out for season 6, except for the very end, the series finale. What do writers, and indeed there were many women writers who contributed over the years to the show, do when a quarter of the 4-part formula wants out, like Julianne Phillips did? They invent a stand-in. Even in the 1st season, viewers learn that the sisters' recently widowed mother, Beatrice, was a patient woman while her husband cheated on her with his secretary. This, too, was a woman-based storyline. To fill out the reduced role of Julianne Phillips, which ultimately led to her departure, we learn that indeed the secretary gave a daughter up for adoption, Charlie. In and out of foster homes, but with resources provided by her father, that is to say, Mr. Reed, Charlie became a doctor. Charlie was played by 2 actresses. Jo Anderson introduced the character in 15 episodes, and Anderson has had a busy career doing one-time roles in TV dramas. Sheila Kelly took over for the remaining 22 episodes. Kelly has also had recurring roles in TV's Lost, Gossip Girl, MDs, and ER. Just as Desperate Housewives plots involved the 4 main women characters on Wisteria Lane, but also had Nicolette Sheridan as Edie as a minor foil, so too did Sisters have a recurring minor role. Mother to the 4 daughters and willing to serve as adopted mother to Charlie, Beatrice Reed was capably played by Elizabeth Hoffman. Prior to the show, Hoffman had a recurring role in 30-something, alongside Patricia Kalember. She was in Matlock and LA Law as well. And back when epic miniseries of major literary works were common, Elizabeth Hoffman was a big somebody. Herman Wouk's Winds of War and War and Remembrance featured big names from the silver screen as well as TV. Look for Elizabeth Hoffman in both shows as First Lady Eleanor Roosevelt. So I hope that's clear, that there were 4 sisters that were the daughters of Beatrice, but then there was this 5th sister played by 2 actresses, and that 5th sister's father was everybody's father, but her mother was indeed the secretary to their dad. These capable women formed the core of all sorts of escapades, maladies, and challenges that made the lives of viewers seem positively dull, ordinary. The writing kept the show from the doldrums, though. It was clever. It twisted. The casting team delivered strong, recurring character talent as well. Nora Dunn, Robert Klein, and a guy named George Clooney, who had just hung up his tool belt as the handyman on Facts of Life. So the humor was clever, but it wasn't ha-ha clever. And just when I thought that the plot was so far-fetched, and I was wondering why I was still watching, guilty pleasure and all, a character would utter a line that was something I would have said if in that same situation. One such outrageous, highly unlikely in my literal mind's thinking, is when Teddy gets asked to design a gown for then First Lady Hillary Rodham Clinton. Alongside Teddy's opportunity, Georgie is stressed because the child she carried for 9 months for Sister Frankie, that is to say Thomas George, has now become the prize in a custody hearing during which both Frankie and Mitch are at their very worst. Teddy has other things on her mind.
I've never seen so much venom between two people that used to care so much about each other.
Well, let's hope they can be civilized during the custody hearing.
I wouldn't bet on it.
It's hard enough to split up, but when there's a kid involved, trust me, it's hell.
Well, at least it'll all be settled this week, one way or another.
Meaning one person is happy, the other's devastated, and a child is caught in the middle.
I told Frankie I'd go to court with her. I don't know what good it'll do. I feel as if I should be there. You girls going?
No. I can't sit there and listen to them talk about dividing Thomas up like he's property. Besides, Frankie and I aren't exactly on speaking terms.
Teddy, what about you?
Well, it's my sister and my ex-husband. Which side would I sit on, the brides or the grooms?
You always find the most inappropriate moments to be funny.
Is that a compliment?
Hardly.
Whoa! Just about to wipe your face on what could be the First Lady's new gown.
Sorry.
On second look, it's better as a napkin. I've got 2 days to design a dress for Hillary Rodham Clinton, and I'm as dry as the Sahara.
Be easier to think of something once you've met her and hear what she has to say.
I promised her I'd have some preliminary concepts when she comes to the house tonight.
Teddy,
Huh?
did I hear you say she's coming by the house tonight?
Yeah. Didn't I mention that?
Who hasn't been part of some situation where by the time you're in the middle of telling the story, you have to say, seriously, you can't make this stuff up? Well, there's a point in every episode of Sisters where you just have to suspend reality. It's gone. Gone reality. Yes, we've all heard mothers admonish their offspring about finding humor in others' misfortune. We've just never been on a deadline to design the First Lady's dress in 2 days. How does a talented designer rise to the occasion? With a pep talk from her big sister, of course.
Piece of advice. There's no time like the present, and no present like time, as I've learned over the last year, but you don't have a lot of. So go on, get out of here and set the world on fire.
I can't. I've been out of the loop for months. I've got no factory. I've got no help. To tell you the truth, I'm not so sure I've still got the goods. You, the most visible woman in the world, wants to be seen in one of my dresses. Even for Teddy the Terrible, that's a tad daunting.
Listen, you honestly think I would have spent that much time and energy being jealous of you if you were a fraud? Whatever that magic it is, my darling sister, you have it in abundance. So I say, harness it, hem it, zip it, and ship it.
Sure enough, Georgie is able to vacuum and spruce up her house in time for a visit from the First Lady. The entire family is on hand, and a little John Phillips Sousa music sets the scene as an actress playing Hillary emerges from a limo. We get the sense of the extended family's disappointment that the entire visit lasts about 5 minutes. With concept sketches approved by the First Lady in hand, Teddy gets industrious and asks a favor from a former employee from her earlier fashion business. Teddy and McKinley, that employee, present the dress and mannequin to Secret Service agents and begin arranging for a final fitting.
I don't know, Mac. Were we wrong about the color? The hemline? I'm just not sure anymore.
The color's perfect. So's the cut.
You just keep telling me that because the polls say my confidence is at an all-time low.
Then try pretending you're looking at that dress at some fancy boutique. What would you say to me? The truth.
Well, I'd say whoever made this dress is pretty good.
Pretty good?
Damn good.
It's more like it.
May I have a word with you, ma'am? Mr. McKinley did not receive clearance to accompany you.
What? Why not?
Something about a stint at Joliet Penitentiary.
So? Wait a minute. You mean McKinley cannot come with me because of something that happened 10 years ago?
That's correct, ma'am.
I see. Huh. So, there's a little wrinkle in the fabric. Seems the prison stripes aren't in fashion this season, so you can't come to the party.
Well, it won't be the first time.
I want you to get back on that thing growing out of your head, and you tell whoever's in charge that McKinley is coming with me to this fitting, or there isn't going to be a fitting.
I'm afraid that's impossible.
Well, then I'm afraid that the Empress is going to be naked. Think about it, Buster.
Sure, stand on principle and hold the First Lady's dress hostage. But don't you admire Teddy just a bit for her chutzpah?
Mitch, my ex-husband, and I named our daughter for Cat Stevens. Did I make that hymn too short?
It's perfect. Shock the Washington Post.
But waking up to a new day should be more than just the words to a song. That's why we're counting on your husband to help restore our hope.
Miss Reed, Mrs. Clinton's already late. If you...
What did you have in mind, Teddy?
Well, since you asked, I just happen to have a list here. My sister Alex wants everyone who's ill to receive proper medical attention and still have money to eat. My sister Georgie's very concerned about the quality of public education. My sister Frankie says that every man and woman is entitled to a job at equal pay. And all I would like is a cure for AIDS. I've lost enough friends already.
That's some wish list.
Yeah, maybe that's why you better hold on to it.
We really need to take off now, ma'am.
Cool your jets. I just have one more thing to say. I want to thank you for this opportunity, Mrs. Clinton. And if you ask me, you are an inspiration.
She's finally done. Prepare for takeoff. You, go.
Corny, campy, and fun. But the situations did serve up a sort of tabletop exercise of life's rites of passage, especially as they were perceived through a woman's eyes. And yes, some of the plot threads were just plain implausible. But the relationships were the constant, and the show's legacy, the reminder that while it takes work to maintain family relationships, there are benefits as well. Big benefits. By virtue of the 4 lead women formula, you might say that Desperate Housewives took Sisters, its predecessor, to the dark, sexy side. And if you view Sisters as a family drama, it's an all-woman, grown-up, suburban Waltons. While these plot themes sound serious, and I'm going to list them, the show was not nearly as grim as this list would have you believe. But the 5 women named for men, which is explained in the pilot as having been their father's decision in lieu of them having not been born as sons, these women took on the issues that I list with confidence, humor, and occasionally outrage. Interracial marriage. Christian-Jewish marriage. 3, count them 3, plane crashes. Menopause. Foster parenting the son of a deceased patient. Surviving a coma that was the result of a carjacking. Settling a municipal union contract while her husband recovers from a major heart attack. Euthanasia. Repressed memory therapy that turns out to be a ruse from a quack therapist. Suffering blindness and eventually losing a spouse from one of the above-mentioned plane crashes. One of the sisters contemplates suicide. Becoming a newspaper advice columnist. Becoming a TV talk show host. Having a successful career as an international fashion designer and businesswoman. Having a singing career that takes off mid-life from its humble origins of bathrobe karaoke. Running for the school board. Advocating on behalf of an HIV-positive teacher in a public school. Sexual harassment in the workplace. End of life and the execution of a living will. Censorship in art. Remarrying late in life. Leukemia. Breast cancer. Pregnancy that may be a baby with Down syndrome. Infidelity and staying in a marriage. Rape. Surrogate birth, which later is produced as a movie of the week. Depression due to job loss. postpartum depression, alcoholism and rehab, stroke, and finally, the marriages and divorces, including a sister's ex. So with all these opportunities to grow, and it's no wonder that each character acts differently by the end of the series, in particular, Swoosie Kurtz's physical comedy helps take the edge off of Alex's many challenges. Comedy is definitely the salve on many of these otherwise pretty exhaustive, pretty controversial issues. And in the last season, Alex mistakes pregnancy for what turns out to be the start of menopause. So I'm going to explore a little bit of one item from that list. Menopause rarely drives a TV plot. Think about it. In part because it requires an actress or actresses of a certain age, and viewers of a certain age, probably more so, need to have a level of personal knowledge with the character that makes the topic approachable. Otherwise, it's coming in as something without the sincerity that it really deserves. By the show's final season, we know Alex. We like Alex. We didn't like Alex so much when the show first started, but she's proved her character, her mettle has been tested, and she has come through a survivor. So we're going to start the series of segments. Alex, Georgie, and Teddy are enjoying coffee in the paper, from which Alex lately has started to read the obituaries.
Are you sure this new interest doesn't have something to do with a certain change you're going through? I admit, since I've entered, how should I say, Act 2 of my life, I have developed a certain curiosity about those who have reached the final curtain. Take Marjorie Markham. She died? Yeah.
I never knew she was alive.
Oh, well, you should have. She was an author, a world traveler, and a discoverer of lost civilization.
Well, that couldn't have left much time to shop.
They called her a Renaissance woman. I'm going to go to her funeral.
You're going to go to the funeral of someone you don't even know? Why?
Because it's important for women to honor other women. Besides, I feel a spiritual kinship with Marjorie.
So Alex puts on her best black and attends the funeral, only to find herself seated next to a distinguished older woman.
Me? Actually, I didn't know the deceased at all.
Well, then what'd you come for, the honey-baked ham?
The truth is, I suppose I can be frank. I mean, I don't know you. I'll never see you again, right?
Right.
Lately, I had this overwhelming obsession with death.
Why didn't you say so? You're in menopause.
How could you tell?
Well, in my experience, the two most common times for a woman to be obsessed with death are menopause and when she's just survived a near-fatal train wreck. I haven't heard of any train wrecks lately.
It's not so much the menopause. I've made peace with that. It's what comes after. I mean, no one lives forever, and I want to make the most of every minute.
You should read this.
Oh, another book? Lately, I've been deluged with everything from true life confessions to self-help manuals.
This one is different.
Oh, The Rights to Your Life by Marjorie Markham.
As Marjorie goes...
This is a photograph of you.
Alex buys the book and finds it most fascinating.
I can't put this book down. In my entire life, I have never read such a page-turner. Danielle Steele? Sarah Paretsky? No, Marjorie Markham. Listen to this. After 3 sleepless nights, I stumbled upon the ruins of an ancient civilization. Sanskrit tablets told me that thousands of years ago, a small group of women known as the Menopanians were banished by the men of their tribe when they became useless. In other words, when they could no longer give them sons.
Talk about thanks a lot and out with the garbage.
Yeah. Anyway, lost and without a homeland, they founded their own civilization based on the idea that they possessed the wisdom of the ages.
That is fascinating.
But in order to prove themselves worthy, they first had to perform a series of rituals.
What do you mean, like cutting out the hearts of gym teachers or draining the blood from checkout people at Woolworths?
You know, sometimes I think I barely know you. Series of rituals.
Alex, you're not.
Maybe I, too, can get the wisdom of the ages.
Marjorie reassures Alex that the whole effort should not be daunting. So in fulfilling the requirements, Alex uses the challenges and obstacles found in her own environment. She climbs the tallest tree in the neighborhood. Its highest leaf is her trophy. And with Marjorie's ghostly guidance, she takes on the second challenge. Swoosie Kurtz's master of physical comedy makes each segment fun.
You are a nervous Nellie, aren't you?
You scared me. What are you doing here?
I had to come back to make sure you were all right.
A couple months in traction, I'll be fine.
Oh, did you get the leaf?
And a citation for causing a public disturbance. Fire department had to come and rescue me out of that tree.
Oh, dear, dear, how humiliating for you. I suppose now you'll want to give up.
Give up? A little permanent spinal injury is not going to stop me from finding the wisdom of the ages.
You got more spunk than I thought. Read on.
Okay. Says here I have to pluck the hair from a wild beast. What?
Remember what I told you.
Be flexible. Improvise. Oh, there is Mrs. Tottlemeyer's Tabby. She goes through our garbage. Her howling keeps me up all night.
Sounds like a wild beast to me.
Here, Persimmon. Here, Persimmon. 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 Got it.
The third challenge involves physical endurance. According to Marjorie's book, Marjorie swam the English Channel. Alex appears to cross a skimpy, shallow pond of some sort. And with her 3 acts performed, she's soaking in her bathtub when Marjorie returns for a recap.
So, you think Carol Dawn can take you away?
You again.
I didn't become a brilliant anthropologist by not being persistent.
Oh, what can I say? You're a better woman than I am.
Bullfinch.
Look, I thought I was going to read your book, follow the instructions, and get the wisdom of the ages. Instead, I ruined my leather boots, tore at least 3 ligaments, and just got a cold.
You think that's all you got? Think again.
About what?
What happened when you climbed that tree?
I got scared.
How come?
A long way down.
So, how did you make the fear go away?
I looked up.
What happened when you pulled the hair from that wild beast?
I got scratched.
Does it still hurt?
Oh, not anymore.
Why is that?
No, wounds heal.
And when you swam across the pond?
Oh, that was the worst. I wanted so badly to turn back. I thought for sure I was going to drown.
Why didn't you?
Because I kept swimming.
Exactly.
Exactly what?
You tell me.
Whenever things are looking down, look up. No matter how badly you've been hurt, wounds heal. Even if you're in above your head, keep going. Eventually you'll get to the other shore.
That's what I learned from the Menopanians. That's how I accomplished everything I did. All of which I might add I did after I reached a certain time of my life.
Then I found the wisdom of the ages?
Congratulations, Alex. You've been reborn. You're a Renaissance woman.
Seriously, can you think of any other TV show, past or present, that eased the viewers into reflecting on life's mileposts more than this one? Affirming, inspiring, aspiring. Sadly, the only version of this episode found on the internet doesn't contain the 1 second of tape that provides writer credits. I really have to believe this episode could only have been written by a woman or team of women. Sure, other shows featuring 4 women as lead characters have come along, leaving us to only remember vaguely, and perhaps fondly, 6 seasons of Sisters. Should you embark on rewatching the whole series online, you'll see how deftly the pilot and the series finale connect. The writers brought us full circle, giving us confidence that the sisters will remain bonded even as B has passed away. By the first half of the early 1990s, older baby boom women who were born in the late 1940s and early 1950s were now in their 40s, and they were everywhere, including a very visible one bringing a new job description to the role of First Lady. Primetime soaps Dynasty and Knots Landing were gone by the early 1990s. Sisters proved to us that escapism can take on many forms and even be set in suburbia with zip-up hoodie sweatshirts. That the character of Teddy can still reach the pinnacle of the fashion industry, yet return to Winnetka in her black Jeep wearing that maroon and black baseball jacket that was her character trademark, that's a sign that there's still good humor that underscores every episode of this show. Throughout the traditional daytime soap operas, viewers establish a connection to the family, usually the good family, which remained the constant for years, if not decades. For 6 years, women connected with the Reed sisters, and if you were like me, marveled at how good their hair evolved over the years. Characters rarely ate, and they usually only talked about getting things done, more so than ever really doing whatever it was that was being discussed. But that's what made it a guilty pleasure. More importantly, we saw how others view and value family bonds, reliance, loyalty, candor, and how important it is to support those around you. In the leadership curriculum that I teach and train from, it's called Inspiring the Heart. As a leader, it's important to value people for what and how they bring themselves to the team. They are humans in need of praise and guidance. And one might conclude that women are stronger leaders of teams because of the hours we spent not on the golf course, but instead watching our daytime or primetime serial dramas. Thanks for listening to this installment of Advanced TV Herstory. Audio clips have been pulled from Sisters episodes found on YouTube. Robert Butler's interview can be found at emmytvlegends.org. You heard background music by Big Mean Sound Machine, which is available at freemusicarchive.org. A big thanks to Advanced TV Herstory guest editrix Judy Manns, who is no stranger to storytelling. If the mood strikes you, please rate the show or post comments or questions on iTunes or the Libsyn host page. If you're shy, email your thoughts to advancedtvherstory@gmail.com. This script and past show scripts can be found at my website, www.cynthiabemusabrams.com. Follow the podcast on Twitter. Our handle is TV Herstory. Thanks for tuning in. I'm your host, Cynthia Bemis Abrams.